Present.
Commissioner Dahl,
Here.
Commissioner Clark Coleman, Vice Chair Kniezek, Chair Basham.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Next item.
B, Chair's remarks. Item C, approval of the June 15, 2022 meeting minutes.
Move approval of the minutes.
Support.
Moved by Commissioner Colleen and supported by Commissioner Dobb. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. Next item, Madam Clerk.
Item D1, under unfinished business, communication from Marcella Cora, Wayne County Legislative Auditor General, forwarding a report and letter from Plant and Moran, the county's independent external auditor, providing a required communication to the Commission, Committee on Audit, and the county executive on the results of their audit of the county September 30th, 2021 financial statements and related annual comprehensive financial report.
I'd like to welcome our Auditor General, Ms. Cora, her staff, and her guests. And Ms. Cora, please proceed.
Marcy Cora, Auditor General, and if we could put the presentation up on the screen. We also have representatives from the Treasurer's Office, if they could introduce themselves.
Eric Sabri, Wayne County Treasurer.
Welcome.
And I believe we have representatives from the Department of Management and Budget on Zoom. They could introduce themselves.
Yes, that's correct. Let me start the video. Yeah. Yogesh Kisani, Deputy Chief Finance Officer, Management and Budget.
Welcome.
Graham Smithcourt, financial reporting.
What we're going to do today is we're going to continue our discussion on the findings from the county's external audit. And we will start with finding number 2021-004. I'll read the condition that we can have representatives from the Treasurer's Office discuss their corrective action.
Also, I believe that our Chief Deputy Treasurer, John Vier Adams, is on the Zoom.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yes, I am.
Perfect.
John
Thank
Vier
you.
Adams, Chief Deputy Treasurer.
Please proceed, Ms. Cora.
The first item is 2021-004 was a material weakness. The county did not have procedures in place to ensure that all bank accounts were fully reconciled to the general ledger, that the reconciling items could be supported, reconciliations were performed and reviewed timely. The recommendation is the county should develop bank reconciliation process involving both management and budget in the Treasurer's Office to ensure that bank recs are prepared and reviewed timely.
Okay,
I will just mention a couple of things, and LaShonda Thomas is going to mention coming after me, as well as John Vier. We have procedures are in place. The staffing shortages and training contribute to this reconciliation issue. We transitioned from ResIQ to SimPro during this time, and monthly reporting is timing is what the issue is mainly is management. It's not a matter of not having procedures. It's basically enforcing and monitoring the procedures that we have. So, LaShonda, you might want to add.
Hi, let me interrupt you for a quick second here. Whether your procedures are in place or not, they weren't done so that you could, the Auditor General could report it to the Audit Committee so we could process forward. As a result of that, there was a time delay. And we had to actually try to get permission to make sure that we got our information into the state on time so that we didn't lose significant amounts of money. So without getting into the details of that, and we don't want to push back and forth at this meeting, but quite frankly, it's just working together, rowing together, making sure that the next year that we do our required report that the Treasurer's Office and the Auditor General's Office and the Commission staff, we're all rowing together. Thank you.
I just wanted to mention that because if you have procedures, the written procedures, they actually exist.
Well,
I just want to say that you say there's no procedures in place. There are procedures in place. They just weren't being adhered to and managed properly.
Well, and again, we're starting to get into the public thing of this is a report from the non-biased Auditor General staff, and I'm reading what they said, their conclusion. Now, a lot of times the different departments don't agree with the conclusion, and they go back and forth privately and finally agree to, so that don't happen again. But if we don't work together, then next year it'll be the same process, the same people pushing back and forth. And so quite frankly, what I'm reading, what the Auditor General's report was pretty clear. But rather than get into all the devil in the details, I would just like to say that we had an actually unofficial, wonderful meeting with you and the Auditor General and some Mr. Abbo and some others. And quite frankly, I think we're going forward. They will be in place and they will be applied to.
Okay, well, I'm not going to argue with you.
No, not arguing.
No.
But, and Ms. Cora, you had something to say.
Just wanted to indicate too, we mentioned at the last meeting, I think Treasurer Shabri, you agreed with, and we'll put together a task force where we can have representatives from the Treasurer's Office, Department of Management and Budget, and all other oddities that are related to the findings from the external audit, so that we can ensure that we're seeing what corrective actions taking place, so that we're not waiting until the end of the year for next year's findings, so that we're going through maybe quarterly meeting and seeing where we're at to address the recommendations. I think we all agreed to that.
Oh, Mr. Abbo, you got any comments relative to task force?
Thank you, Commissioner. Yes, I think that that's a great idea. Actually, because the bank reconciliation process, significant coordination is needed between M&B and Treasury, and making sure that those parties are aligned in what the processes and procedures are and what the timing is. I think will go a long way in resolving the issues that the county has regarding the bank reconciliation process, which is kind of the foundation for a lot of the problems that we've had in timely audit work being done.
Okay, Commissioner Kleen had a comment or question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to ask the Commission Fiscal Advisor, Mr. Abbo, what's the consequences if we are not reconciling the bank accounts on a monthly basis? Is that the basis?
Well, I mean, we actually saw a little bit of it probably yesterday when we were approving the deficit elimination plan. I mean, probably the bank reconciliation is what comes in and out of our bank account is the foundation for so many of our accounts. If we miss a deposit, if we miss recording checks properly, or there's any transaction that affects our bank, which is a significant number of the transactions that the county has, starts with our bank. What goes in and out of our bank. If those aren't done properly, it affects virtually every line item, every account, every fund. So it's really important that we get those bank reconciliations done timely. And if there's a problem, that they get resolved timely. The further away we get from problems, the more difficult it is to solve. If we are aware of a reconciliation item or a discrepancy early enough, it becomes easier to resolve sooner than later. So with the deficit elimination, if we reconcile accounts timely, we become aware of balances. We could have made the budget adjustments so that we don't have deficits in any of our funds. So I think that it's really important. If I had a list, and Commissioner, you've asked us before, one of the biggest problems that needs to be dealt with regarding timely filing of an audit, I think that it starts with this item.
Mr. Chair.
I'm sorry, Ms. Cora, Ms. Cora, one more comment.
Ms. Thomas wanted to comment on the corrective action.
Mr. Sabri.
I just wanted to give Ms. Thomas opportunity to comment.
Thank you. Good. There you go. You got it. Oh.
That's okay. Okay, sorry about that. I like to agree with Mark in terms of his comments, but I like to add that in our processes, we're actually reconciling with the bank every day. What this is getting to is actually the month-end reconciliation. So our cash department, what they're doing is looking at transactions that are coming in every day, making certain that we have supporting documentation for that information, for those transactions that are coming in. So this is more at the month end, making certain that we are doing that month end bank reconciliation, but we're reconciling to the bank every day to the bank balance.
Can you tell us where we are right now, Ms. Thomas?
Okay, in terms of bank reconciliations right now, we have balance on our side through the end of May. We have our month-end reconciliation reports that we are gathering to provide to MMB so that they can reconcile on their side. We've provided everything through April. And as the treasurer mentioned earlier, with the implementation of Simpro, which didn't go as we all know it should have went, there was a delay in terms of getting that information. And then we're still kind of understanding the system and making certain for those unusual transactions that we've had that we're have a process in place to get them into the system using Simpro. So as a team, collectively with MMB, we're working to make certain that we're getting those month ends. But just, I want to assure you that on a daily basis, we know what deposits are going on and we're recognizing that and we're balancing directly with the bank. Thank you.
Commissioner Kleen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for that. You know, from the chair that I sit in and I look at the annual outside audit, and this is where I get a lot. Now we're talking day-to-day stuff here, but this is where I got my information. And from the outside auditor, this has been a repeat finding for 4 years now. So I think I will leave the details to the task force to figure out. I can't get into, you know, what is a day-to-day reconciliation as opposed to not having the month-end one and what the consequences of that are and who looks at that. I think I'll leave that to the task force to figure out. But I am encouraged that we will not see this as a repeat finding next year. And given the gravity of what Mr. Abbo is saying, I'm very hopeful that this will be something that will come off the audit next year. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
On to number 2, which is finding 2021-007. The county did not have procedures in place to ensure the undistributed property taxes were properly reconciled at year end. And the recommendation is the county should develop a process to ensure that the undistributed property taxes are reconciled timely and accurately.
Response from treasurer.
So as part of the task force, we'll make certain that all accounts are reconciled properly. We are distributing property taxes to taxing authorities within the 14 days that's required by statute. So we are doing that. This more is on an administrative side in terms of our documentation. So part of the task force will address this so that we don't have this finding.
Great answer.
Thank you.
Ms. Cora.
Number 8, 2021-008. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Kleen.
Yeah, are we taking questions as we go item
Yes.
by item?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is one I'd like to go back to the county fiscal advisor, Mr. Abbo. On the matter of undistributed property taxes, who would they be distributed to? And what kind of amounts are we talking here in undistributed taxes? What are they? Who are they supposed to be distributed to?
I'm going to ask our Auditor General to correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that this finding was the result of the prior period adjustment because $25 million of that was to the county general fund. This is
Excuse me, Mr. Abbo, 25 million that should have been distributed to the county?
yes.
Okay.
Yes. So what's happening, Commissioner, is money is it used to be an agency fund, a fiduciary fund, where money was just received and then distributed, and it was
for reporting purposes, it was strictly done on the balance sheet. They recorded cash and recorded in the liability. So I believe it was GASB 84 made it so that it now has to, and I don't want to get too technical here, has to flow through the balance sheet. You have to show the sources of the money and then the distribution of the money. And that's what kind of created a problem. So making sure that there was reconciliation and an understanding of all of the money that came in and who it was payable to was one of the problems that we had. So, and again, it goes back to the reconciliation process that we talked about earlier. So it goes to local jurisdictions. $25 million of the monies were payable to the general fund in a prior year, which created the need for a prior period adjustment in the audit report.
So there are local units of government in Wayne County that are due undistributed property taxes, Mr. Abbo, is that what you're saying?
I'm going to refer to LaShonda on exactly the nature of the liabilities that were.
Okay,
Okay.
yeah.
So just so we can have clarity or bring clarity to this, this involved 3 transactions that were completed in error. Okay, and that, I don't want to get into the weeds, but that's part of the task force in terms of our PTA system that we're using. So to answer your first question, we distribute taxes that we collect to taxing authorities such as HICMA, State of Michigan, RISA, to Wayne County, of course, and things of that nature, okay? So in this case, there was an error. And in terms of reconciling and part of GASB 68, where we had to do a deeper dive into an account that we had not done a deep dive into in previous years, that's how this came about. But we are distributing our taxes. Okay. Does that bring clarity? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
The next one is 08, which is what Mr. Abbott was referring to, the prior period adjustment of the 25 million. The condition was the county did not have a process in place to ensure property tax revenue was recorded within the general ledger accurately. The recommendation is the county should develop a process and monitoring to ensure that property tax revenue is appropriately and accurately recorded in the general ledger. This is the one where there was a 25 million, which was for the general fund, parks fund, and juvenile justice fund were understated.
We've discussed
Sure.
we've
Go ahead.
discussed
Yep.
this as part of other.
7 and 8 kind of go together.
Laura?
Number 9, the county did not have procedures in place to ensure that the delinquent tax receivable balances were properly reconciled at year end. The recommendation is the county should develop a process to ensure that delinquent tax receivable accounts are reconciled timely and accurately.
And we will address this as part of reconciling on a more monthly, timely basis.
And our last one is 20.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Dodd.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Does the treasurer have a formula to determine what surplus DTR funds are available? Is there a formula for that?
The formula that we've been using for what's this?
Okay.
Back to the commission.
Can you
Oh,
speak
I'm
in the
sorry.
mic? Yeah, you don't need to look at me.
I apologize. No, we actually have a formula that we have shared with the commission over the years that I've been here with the county.
Would it be possible to send that formula to the chair
Okay.
for distribution again? Thank you. And then I have one more question. Will the treasurer and treasurer's office implement procedures to ensure that the delinquent tax receivable balances are properly reconciled at year end?
Yes.
Thank you.
Please proceed.
Our last one is 2021-010. The county did not have procedures in place to ensure that the balances within the cash receipts funds were properly reconciled at year end. Then the county should develop a process to ensure the balances within the cash receipts fund are reconciled timely and accurately.
Again, we have a new cash system that we've implemented. So this is part of understanding that cash system and making certain that we have processes and procedures in place to properly reconcile this particular account.
That concludes the findings related to the treasurer's office.
Appreciate the feedback from the treasurer's office and also the hard work from the auditor general and her staff and also fellow commissioners. So can I get a motion to receive and file? Mr. Clean.
I'll make that motion in a sec, Mr. Chair, but I have a general question for Treasurer Sabri, if you don't mind. Mr. Sabri, I've been sitting on this audit committee all 16 years that I've been here. One of the things that consistently comes up in audits when there's findings, and there was some discussion of this today, is that we are short throughout the county on being adequately staffed to keep up with all of these findings that we see in the audit. Would you care to comment, sir, on where you're at with the level of staffing in your office and whether you are being hindered at all by not having enough staff to satisfy all of this?
We have been short-staffed at a couple of high-level positions in our office in terms of the finance side. We were fortunate to hire a person as a civil service position, Ms. Melissa Brown, who is helping us out as a tax accounting administrator. We also have brought in a couple of consultants to help us on a temporary basis until we can actually hire. We were looking for a deputy treasurer for finance, and also Ms. Thomas was in that position. She's working as a consultant right now, helping us. So it is hindering us. We're working with HR, not only finding the people, but also being able to pay them what we need to pay them in order to get them here. And so it's a twofold issue. It's not only recruiting the qualified people, but actually being able to pay them.
So if more of that money, like the 22 million, went to general fund, I know the executive's offices here, they could hire or raise the wages for people that they're trying to hire. So this is a win-win-win kind of a conversation, the way I see it. So I hope the administration is paying attention to the labor shortage and why, but thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Colleen, please proceed.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. And I appreciate the forthrightness of the answer, Treasurer Sabri. And you certainly aren't the only one, but as I sit here and I observe all of this, the turnover and the inability to hire in department head positions and to offer competitive salaries, to me, that creates a leaky budget in our budget, a leaky bucket in our budget where we are losing money as a result of that. And we're losing the years of experience that have been built up, and we bring in a lot of relatively new folks that have to really get up to speed. And so I think we need to analyze for the county as a whole and for your office too, sir. What is the true cost of not offering and being able to offer salaries and benefits that we are competitive with the outside world and we can attract people here? And what is the cost of doing that as opposed to the cost of not doing that? And then we run into these situations where it could cost the county a lot of money by not having top-notch personnel. So I'll just offer that as a comment. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I don't know that you need a response. If you want to respond, you're welcome to, but I've got a motion to receive and file. Can I get a second?
Or
Motion to receive and file supported by Commissioner Dobb. Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. Next item, Madam Clerk.
Item E, new business, there is none listed. Moving on to item F, such other matters as may be properly submitted before the committee.
There are none at this time.
Item G, public comments.
Anybody from the public who would like to comment? Going once. Anybody from the public like to comment? Tim, would you like to comment? No? Anybody from the public like to comment? Mary? Anybody from the public who would like to comment? Next item, Madam Clerk.
H, adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Chair,
A lot of movements to support. All those in favor, say aye.